The likelihood of being bitten by a shark is around 1 in 3.75 million, but there are some places in the world where the odds are far riskier than that. At Florida's New Smyrna Beach, deadly rip currents and hurricanes threaten the lives of many, but it's what lies beneath the surface that terrifies people the most. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. New Smyrna Beach has been dubbed the shark bite capital of the world, with 5 shark attacks in 2023 and 6 so far in 2024. The idyllic-looking Florida beach is also plagued by deadly rip currents and hurricanes, but it's the threat from the ocean's mightiest predators that earns this place its high ranking. Somehow, despite its ominous reputation, it still lures people from far and wide to visit its sandy beaches and inviting surf. 2 shark attacks occurred in 2 days last month. The first incident occurred on Independence Day, July 4, 2024. 21-year-old Connor Baker was visiting New Smyrna with his girlfriend and her brother. They waded into the warm sea, throwing and catching a football. The water was only knee-deep as they splashed around amongst hundreds of other holidaymakers, diving for the ball, laughing, and having fun. But suddenly, Connor felt something sharp on his foot. When he looked down, the horrifying dark shadow of a shark was wrapped around his foot. Instinctively, he kicked out and tried to pull his foot away. The shark's tail thrashed in the water, splashing in the knee-high surf. A second later, it let go, and Connor hobbled over to his girlfriend's brother, who helped him out of the water. Their cries were heard by others who came to help out. They crowded around Connor in an attempt to protect him as he was dragged from the water. His foot was bleeding heavily, and a Volusia Beach safety officer tied a tourniquet around Connor's leg to try and stem the flow while they waited for emergency services. Connor was taken to the hospital, suffering from 4 torn tendons. He was lucky the attack wasn't worse. Just 24 hours later, the sharks would strike again. Just after 4 p.m. on July 5th, a 26-year-old Sarasota man waded into the water in the same spot. He was floating in an inner tube, his feet dangling in 5 feet of water. As he paddled amongst the other swimmers, he didn't notice a dark shadow approaching. It was relatively small, but it was that of a predator. Suddenly, it grabbed hold of his left foot for a couple of seconds before letting go. It was a huge shock, but the man managed to get out of the water safely, and he received treatment at the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. That same month, yet another attack took place. 31-year-old C.J. Lyles, a firefighter, was enjoying some downtime. He hit the waves on his surfboard on July 30th, 2024. He had spotted some dorsal fins breaking the surface not far from where he surfed, but they weren't big enough to warrant him giving up and returning to shore. He would just keep an eye out and enjoy his time in the waves. But it was a decision that could have proved deadly. After catching a wave, he began paddling back out. He pulled himself through the water, paddling with his hands, when suddenly one of the sharks made a beeline directly for him. It came at him so quickly that he didn't have time to get out of the way. It opened its jaws and clamped down around his left hand. CJ instinctively tried to pull his hand away, but the shark held on. In the terrifying moments that followed, CJ thought he was going to be pulled off his board. Luckily, however, it was only a small shark, about 3 feet long, but its jaws were still powerful. After the shark thrashed around, it then let go. When he made it to the safety of the beach, he washed his hand in the surf before being loosely stitched up at a local trauma unit. He was then taken to a hospital where he underwent surgery to repair the tendons in his hand. He didn't lose his hand, but it had been the 6th recorded attack in Volusia County in 2024. Despite the attacks, people still swim, bathe, and surf in the waters. And stories from shark attack survivors just keep coming. On Saturday, July 29, 2023, on the opposite coastline to New Smyrna Beach in Tampa Bay, 26-year-old Natalie Branda was celebrating her friend Allie Muck's birthday on board a yacht. They spent the day jumping from the deck into the cool waters. As evening began to draw in, the friends were still jumping into the water, splashing about and having fun. But their splashes were vibrating through the water column. They were attracting unwelcome guests to the party. Just after 8 p.m., Natalie suddenly felt an intense pressure around her stomach. She realized right away that she was being bitten by a shark. Adrenaline surged through her body. Mercifully, the shark let go, but Natalie didn't know if it was coming back for more. She swam as fast as she could to the yacht. It was only a few feet away, but it felt like miles. She called out to her friends on board the boat, and they leaned over and pulled her up. The look on their faces told Natalie that the injury was serious. The shark had bitten her across her backside and around to the front of her stomach. Emergency services were already waiting for Natalie when they arrived, and she was rushed off to the hospital. Luckily for Natalie, the shark had only made a soft bite, one which is a test bite to see if you are potential prey or not. If it hadn't have been a soft bite, then the consequences could have been life-threatening. On September 9, 2023, Hurricane Larry brought some exceptional waves to New Smyrna Beach. Lizzie Nielsen took her sons Doyle and Logan to the beach for them to surf some of the resulting waves, but it was a decision that could have changed their lives forever. As 16-year-old Doyle paddled out from the shore, small sharks could be seen diving through the waves. They were small, but their predatory instincts were strong. In a matter of seconds, one of the sharks launched itself at Doyle. The force from the hit knocked the youngster off his board. It latched onto his left arm for one terrifying second before thrashing its tail and disappearing beneath the waves. But that 1 second was enough to take a bite out of his upper arm. Luckily, no artery was severed, and Doyle bravely and calmly paddled back to shore, with his brother right behind him. He required 9 stitches, and the attack was caught on camera by another beachgoer. 3 days later, on September 12th, 38-year-old Mark Somerset had just finished riding a wave when he jumped off his board. But he didn't realize that he had just jumped right in front of a shark. Instinctively, it bit down on his face as soon as he hit the water. It happened so quickly that Mark didn't even see the shark, and after only a second or two of intense pressure, the shark let go and swam off. The power of the bite left Mark with a gash on his face from his forehead all the way down to his lower jaw. He required 18 stitches, but survived the ordeal. It could have been a whole lot worse. The reason for so many shark attacks is relatively straightforward. There's a lot of food in the area. Ponce Inlet runs into the Atlantic just north of New Smyrna Beach. It brings with it an abundance of nutrients which attract fish such as mullet. These, in turn, attract sharks. The picturesque location along with the good surf make it a popular destination for swimmers and surfers, so interactions with predators are more likely as a result. Luckily, most of the sharks found in New Smyrna Beach are highly piscivorous sharks, such as blacktips and spinners. Despite being awarded the unwanted title of Shark Bite Capital of the World, New Smyrna Beach is far more deadly for another reason: hurricanes and storm surges that create dangerous rip currents, with the Coast Guard and lifeguards reporting 400 rescues in last month alone. The message is simple: swim at New Smyrna Beach at your own risk.